Now, the management of South Africa's worst foot and mouth disease outbreak has escalated into a legal showdown between the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, and a coalition of private agricultural lobby groups. Agricultural interest groups, along with lobby group Sakeliga, are launching legal action against Steenhuisen for his alleged failure to justify a ban on private foot and mouth vaccinations. For more on this matter, we are now joined by Sakeliga CEO, Piet Roux. Piet, a very good morning to you, and thanks so much for joining us.
Morning, Leanne. My pleasure.
So talk to us about why is it that Sakeliga has now entered the farming arena?
Yeah, Sakeliga has experience in a wide range of industries. Our mission is to secure a flourishing economic order. And in various court cases and litigation processes over the years, we've learned some lessons about how government and failure by ministers and state officials to do their job can obstruct private solutions to problems. And there's a tendency in government to delay and to centralize. Earlier this year, we realized that the foot and mouth disease crisis, the outbreak, was reached significant proportions. The minister even said that he wanted to declare a national state of disaster. And we were approached by several industry bodies and farmers and veterinarians and others. And so we decided, well, let's see if we can help. And we identified a certain key problem, which seems to be that the Minister of Agriculture insists that only the state may procure and have vaccines administered. And we then went and had a look at what is the basis for this claim, and we couldn't find it. And so far, the minister has failed to provide it.
Yeah. So this is it really is a devastating story at this point in time, and it really isn't just a veterinary problem. It's now turning into food security and an economic problem, which we really do see. I mean, we see the prices of meat increasing and the issues that farmers are having to deal with. So if we get into this situation now, you've actually instructed the attorneys to approach the courts to review and set aside the ban. Why is this?
Well, anything of this magnitude, the state professes to be able to handle alone. And after many years of failure, including 18 months of failure to solve this problem under Minister Steenhuisen's tenure, we don't want to put more faith in government, especially not now that the plan is to vaccinate 14 million cattle. We now want to say, let's have a dual stream approach. The Minister and the Department of Agriculture can continue with what they've been promising to do for many years, but have failed to do. We're not trying to stop them from doing something, but what we are doing is we're saying he must show us the legal basis for preventing private parties, veterinarians and farmers and so on, from procuring, that is buying licensed vaccines in South Africa and administering those. This is common under state-controlled diseases of other sorts, for example, Newcastle disease or brucellosis or other vaccines. It's true that this thing called foot and mouth disease is a state-controlled disease. The state has classified it as such, but there are dozens of such diseases in South Africa, and they're all treated very differently. Minister Steenhuisen somehow has decided rather to obstruct clarity, to obstruct us, and to obstruct private parties seeking to secure vaccines by failing to provide a legal basis. He keeps refusing to tie himself down to a version of his supposed legal basis for the specific way in which he wants to control this state-controlled disease.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you agree that foot and mouth disease is officially a state-controlled disease? Obviously, you know, this is, but if so, what is at the heart of this conflict?
Well, officially, it is called a state-controlled disease because the state classified it as such.
Yeah.
In practice, it is a disease out of control because the state does not provide adequate regulations, and it obstructs private parties from solving the disease and intervening to save their production losses. So in practice, it's out of control. This Minister Steenhuisen keeps calling it a state-controlled disease. It is classified as such. And he fails to provide a legal basis. This makes it very difficult now, because if he had last week complied with our demands, we sent him a formal letter, because it's not an informal matter. It's a formal matter. Many millions and billions of rands are at stake. So we sent him a formal letter saying, give us your reasons. and he keeps making vague public statements. He refuses to engage with us. He refuses to reply. And now the only way to proceed is to do this through litigation. We want to get the minister to tie himself down to a version of his argument, and then we can engage on that. Because maybe, I mean, at this stage, it looks like the minister is the problem. But maybe he isn't. Maybe it's the Act. Or maybe it's the regulations. But the minister doesn't want to provide us a basis for formal engagement.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that to argue for the state side, because they basically are saying that they want to, control the vaccine process. They feel that if it's uncontrolled, it can undermine disease surveillance, confuse international trading partners, delay regaining export status. They also warn that there could be illegal vaccine imports, incorrect vaccine strains being used, a lack of a cold chain control. These are some of the reasons that they are giving. Clearly, you don't think these are good enough reasons.
Well, where does he give these reasons? He never ties himself down to a version. We're precisely asking him to tie himself down to a version, give us the reasons, the legal basis for his prohibition on private vaccine procurement and private vaccine administration. And it's especially important because in many other state-controlled diseases, with medical substances and veterinary substances of even of much more severe human risk, veterinarians are buying and applying, private parties are buying and applying the vaccines, administering it themselves. So Minister Steenhuisen really in media statements or in public statements, he keep offering reasons, but his reasons keeps changing. He even introduces things like bioterrorism and such. I'll tell you what a terror risk is a infected cow. You can just extract the infected material from the cow, take it anywhere in the world and infect other cows, as opposed to the vaccines suggested, which do not pose the same risk. So Minister Steenhuisen just keeps making up arguments. We'd like him to provide one in writing.
So, I mean, obviously, is there adequate communication from the department to you? I mean, is that you're saying that there isn't like enough communication in terms of the reasoning behind all of this? Do you feel that there's been enough communication from the department to the farmers that are being affected? And is this, in your opinion, just taking far too long to contain?
It's far too long. Look, Sakeliga do not normally become involved in matters which are very industry specific. But sometimes we do when the problem seems to have the same kind of origin as we have encountered in many other areas of state. It's either state incompetence, state failure, one of those two, or a state failure and incompetence or malicious intervention by the state. And in this case, it's again one of these two. And alternatively, that's when we become involved. So it's very serious. But for example, in other industries, we also became involved, like in the aviation industry. Last year we won a court case to prevent BE requirements from grounding airline companies because they couldn't get a license if they don't have a BE status. And that's an example of where Sakeliga becomes involved in an industry where we solve a problem that affects many industries. And in this case, again, it's really surprising, but Minister Steenhuisen is really just continuing the policies of his predecessor, which seems to be centralizing everything. He could have been, what Mr. Steenhuisen must do at this point is he must look for every possible avenue to get the state out of the aspects of vaccine procurement and administration. He must emphasize monitoring, but he seems to just tie himself down to whatever is the existing prohibitions instead of understanding that this is a crisis and doing what he must do to allow the private sector to solve what they are solving with so many other veterinary diseases themselves.
So we talk about this being a crisis. How bad is the situation really? I mean, we keep speaking about it, but you're obviously speaking to the farmers, and you need to because you're representing them. And when we talk about the amount of cattle's lives that have actually been lost to foot and mouth disease, we're already seeing the prices. I mean, the prices of meat have gone up exponentially. I mean, I did find a I found something where it showed actually the amount that the meat price has actually gone up in over a year, and it's becoming unaffordable for a lot of people, and this is directly linked, obviously, to foot and mouth disease. But give us an understanding of how urgently this crisis needs to be dealt with, and the fact that, obviously, farmers aren't getting that help. So paint a picture for us.
Yeah, the broad economic picture often only appears in data much later. So the economic data won't give you the precise extent of the crisis. For now, it's best to rely on what farmers themselves are saying.
Yeah.
And Leanne, there are many farmers have been televised and shown where they explain what happens to their herds. We've all seen the footage of animals losing the ability to walk and, of course, dying what seems to be a very painful death. And then from what we understand from veterinarians and from farmers and from industry bodies, there are farmers who are at risk of losing their whole herd and losing production and so on. So it's inevitable that the failures at this scale will have economic consequences.
Yeah.
Minister Steenhuisen himself wants to have this declared a national state of disaster. And whether that's a good thing or not, I'm not sure, because it seems that whenever the states declare something a national state of disaster, they lock down things even further. And we've seen how lockdowns prevent private sectors from properly responding. Yeah. So everybody agrees that this is serious enough to justify extreme measures. And in this case, Minister Steenhuisen does not want to put his faith in farmers for doing the same that they do with so many other diseases. Procure licensed vaccines in South Africa and administer those vaccines, either with or without the help of veterinarians. It's done with many animal diseases. Minister Steenhuisen fails to provide a justification in writing to tie himself down to a version about why this cannot be the case. What is his legal basis for this not being the case with foot and mouth disease?
Does government even have the capacity to respond to the scale or speed of this outbreak? Because it's looking like this is where the major problem is.
No, they do not have this the capability of dealing with this. The regulations that currently exist was written in the 80s, and the previous strategy, which Minister Steenhuisen likes to say that he's responsible for changing, was to find outbreaks and then solve those outbreaks. So outbreaks happen from time to time, and then if you stop the outbreak, it doesn't spread. So the state was unable to control the outbreaks. So when it was a small problem, the state couldn't solve it. The state vets couldn't get there. They didn't have money or petrol or airtime. I don't know what. Everything. It's horror stories that the veterinarians and the farmers are telling us. So now the matter here is that Minister Steenhuisen seems to now have confidence that the same people who failed in, so many times with these vaccines and with solving the crisis, even solving the outbreaks, he now wants to put himself and them in charge of inoculating 14 million cattle on a repeated basis. It's just not credible.
Yeah. Just finally, as I let you go, are private suppliers ready to assist immediately with ample supplies of vaccines? Has this been already secured, even though it's not sort of allowed at this point in time? There's a stop on this, but are they ready if in fact they get the green light?
There are internationally several manufacturers of vaccines who have said that they're able to provide the relevant vaccines for South Africa. Right. That then has to be authorized it seems to have to be authorized by certain licensing entities like South African Health Products Regulatory Authority in South Africa. And then that has to be distributed. Our understanding is that this is ready to be made and to be shipped to South Africa. The problem there is twofold. There is a delay on the state side in licensing these vaccines for veterinary use, and then there is a resistance by the Department of Agriculture to allow these, to issue the relevant permits that can allow this for private procurement and distribution. So it's not a problem of supply. It's a problem of obstruction by the department. And more on this we will make known soon. But there are recent developments which is indicating, at least to me, that the department is obstructing deals that were in the process of being concluded for the importation of vaccines by trying to centralize that and getting everything through the state. So it's actually, even at the import side, it seems that the state is a problem.
Sure. All right. Piet, that's a very interesting angle, and I think hopefully the department will respond to this, and we're able to perhaps even invite the minister to come on and give their point of view on this particular situation. And more importantly, when the time is right, go and visit one of these actual farms, and I'm sure, Piet, you'll be able to facilitate that for us, to actually go on the ground and see what the situation is like when it comes to foot and mouth disease. Piet Roux, Sakeliga, CEO, will stay in touch with you, saying that the restrictions preventing private farmers from protecting their own animals are unlawful and irrational. Thanks for joining us.